Welcome to Kuma English Listening Hub. Today, we are going on a journey in the dark. Not a scary journey, but a quiet, gentle one. In this episode, we will explore how night trains are making a comeback in Europe and why so many people are falling in love with sleeping on a moving train again. Imagine this. You finish work in the evening, walk to a central station with your small suitcase, and step onto a train. Inside, there is soft lighting, the smell of coffee from the dining car, and the low murmur of other passengers speaking different languages. You find your compartment, make your bed, and by the time you wake up, you are in a different country. This used to be a very common experience in Europe. For decades, night trains connected cities like Paris, Vienna, Berlin, and Rome. But around the early 2000s, many of these routes disappeared. Now, to the surprise of many people, they are returning. In this episode, we will talk about why night trains declined, what has changed to bring them back, what the experience is like on board, how they compare with flying, and what challenges they still face. So, close your eyes for a moment and listen carefully. You might even hear the rhythm of train wheels in your imagination as we travel together. Let's start with a simple question. What is a night train, exactly? A night train is a long-distance train that travels mainly during the night, often between major cities or across borders. Instead of regular seats only, it usually offers sleeping options. These can range from simple reclining seats to couchettes, which are basic bunk beds in shared compartments, and fully private sleepers, which are small rooms with real beds, sometimes even with a private bathroom. The idea is very practical. You move while you sleep, you save the cost of a hotel, and you do not lose a day of travel time sitting in an airport or on a plane. You lie down in one place, and in the morning, you step out into a completely different environment. This might sound romantic and efficient at the same time. So why did night trains almost disappear in the first place? To answer that, we need to go back to the 1992 and early 2000s. During that period, low-cost airlines exploded in popularity across Europe. Companies like Ryanair and EasyJet made it possible to fly from one country to another for the price of a restaurant meal, or sometimes even less. People became used to the idea that the fastest, cheapest way to go anywhere was by plane. At the same time, many European governments were reducing public spending, including subsidies for long-distance trains. Running a night train is expensive. You need special carriages, sleeping compartments, more staff on board, and detailed cleaning after every trip. The trains cover long distances and require careful maintenance. When fewer passengers chose trains and more chose planes, many railway companies decided that night trains were simply not profitable. Routes were cut, sleeper cars were retired or sold. In some countries, whole networks of night trains disappeared in just a few years. On top of that, high-speed daytime trains were becoming faster and more common. If you could travel from Paris to Lyon or from Madrid to Barcelona in just a few hours during the day, there seemed to be less need to sleep on a train at all. For many people, night trains began to feel old-fashioned, slow, and inconvenient. So, what changed? Why are night trains suddenly back in the conversation and back on the rails? There are several reasons, and together they form a very interesting story about how travel habits and values are evolving in Europe. First, there is the rise of climate awareness. In the last decade, many Europeans have become more conscious of the environmental impact of flying. Planes emit a lot of carbon dioxide per passenger, especially on short-haul routes, where takeoff and landing form a large part of the journey. Trains, by contrast, are usually much more environmentally friendly, particularly in countries where electricity is produced from renewable sources. This awareness inspired movements such as flight shame, a social trend that started in Sweden, where people felt uncomfortable flying for short trips when there was a rail alternative. Some travelers began to measure the carbon impact of each journey. Governments, too, started to talk about reducing domestic flights when trains could offer a reasonable replacement. In that context, night trains suddenly looked like a smart, eco-friendly option. You can travel long distances while sleeping, without adding as much to your carbon footprint as a plane journey would. Second, there is a change in how people think about time. Flying may be fast in the air, but the total experience can be surprisingly long and tiring. You have to travel far out to the airport, arrive early, go through security, wait at the gate, board the plane, and then repeat a similar process at the destination. There is also the stress of delays, cancellations, and tight connections. A night train offers a different rhythm. You arrive at a central station, usually in the middle of the city. You board close to departure time, store your luggage, and soon you can lie down and relax. In the morning, you wake up already where you need to be, often just a short walk or metro ride from the city center. For some travelers, this feels like gaining time, not losing it. The night itself becoming part of the journey, instead of an empty space between days. Third, and perhaps most surprisingly, there is the emotional side, the renewed desire for slower, more meaningful travel. Not everyone wants to rush from place to place anymore. Many younger travelers, as well as older ones, are looking for experiences that feel personal, memorable, and even slightly nostalgic. A night train offers exactly that. The sound of the wheels, the narrow corridors, the small table by the window, the shared routine of brushing your teeth in a tiny bathroom as the train sways gently. These details create a story you can remember and tell. Now that we understand why night trains are coming back, let's step on board together and explore what life is like during a typical journey. Imagine you are in Vienna, Austria, in the late evening. The main station is bright, modern, and busy. But there is a different atmosphere around the platform where the night train is waiting. People are standing with backpacks, suitcases, and sometimes even bicycles. Some look tired after a long day at work. Others look excited, holding guidebooks or maps. You find your carriage, check the number on your ticket, and step up. A conductor in a dark uniform greets you, checks your reservation, and shows you to your compartment. If you have booked a couchette, you might share the space with 3 or 5 other people. There are narrow beds, one above the other, with clean sheets folded neatly at the foot. There is a small ladder, a window with a blind, and a place to store your luggage. It is simple but functional. If you have booked a private sleeper, the compartment might look more like a tiny hotel room. There could be a small sink, a bottle of water, a reading light, and better sound insulation. In some newer trains, there is even a compact private shower and toilet. As you settle in, you meet your compartment companions. Maybe there is a student from Spain traveling to visit friends, a business traveler from Germany who prefers trains to planes, and a couple from Poland on holiday. In this small space, you hear a mixture of languages and accents, but also a shared routine. Everyone is trying to make the space feel comfortable for the night. People unfold the beds, place their valuables where they can reach them easily, and choose their sleeping clothes. Soon, the conductor comes back with a simple question. Tea or coffee for breakfast, and at what time would you like to be woken up? The train begins to move, slowly at first, then more smoothly. The city lights slide by the window and grow thinner as the train reaches the outskirts and then the open countryside. Inside the compartment, the atmosphere is intimate. Some people whisper, others read, and someone might quietly put on headphones. Outside, the landscape becomes dark. Perhaps the train passes a small station where a lonely platform lamp glows in the night. You might imagine the lives of the people in the houses you see from the window. At night, the view is less about details and more about mood. On longer routes, there may be a dining car where passengers can sit at tables with white tablecloths, order a simple meal, and watch the night outside. The menu is usually not very sophisticated, but the feeling of eating dinner on a moving train has a special charm. When you finally decide to sleep, you climb into your bunk, pull the curtain or close the door, and listen to the repetitive sound of the tracks. The movement can be surprisingly comforting. It is similar to being rocked to sleep. During the night, the train crosses borders. Sometimes border police or customs officers may check passports, although in most Schengen countries, this has become less intrusive. In modern night train services, staff try to minimize disturbances so passengers can sleep without interruption. In the early morning, you begin to hear more sounds. Doors opening, footsteps in the corridor, low voices. The train is approaching its destination. The conductor knocks gently on the door and hands you a simple breakfast, often a roll, some jam, and a hot drink. You open the blind and suddenly see a different world. Perhaps You left a landlocked German-speaking city at night, and now you are arriving in a coastal city where the language, architecture, and atmosphere feel entirely different. You step down from the train with your bag and join the flow of people heading toward the station exit. It is still early, the air is cool, and the city is just waking up. And you are already there, ready to explore or to go directly to a meeting. Of course, this picture is somewhat idealized. Night trains also have problems. They can be expensive, especially if you want a private compartment. Booking can be confusing, because trains often cross several national borders and involve different rail companies. Delays do happen, and if a train breaks down in the middle of the night, finding replacement arrangements is complicated. There are also important questions about safety and comfort. Sharing a compartment with strangers is not equally comfortable for everyone, especially for solo female travelers. Modern services are trying to respond by offering women-only compartments, better locks, and clearer rules. But creating a secure, respectful environment on a moving overnight train requires constant attention. From a business perspective, running night trains successfully is almost like running a small hotel on rails. Operators must think about cleaning, linen, staffing, catering, and booking systems. Some companies have invested in modern rolling stock, with more comfortable beds, better sound insulation, and stable Wi-Fi to make the product more attractive. At the European level, governments and the European Union are now discussing how to support international night trains. Rail networks in Europe are complex, with different technical standards, ticket systems, and national priorities. For night trains to thrive, cooperation is essential. Despite these challenges, several services have already become symbols of the night train revival. In Austria, the National Railway Company has created a brand called Nightjet, connecting cities such as Vienna, Berlin, Rome, Zurich, and Brussels. In other parts of Europe, private companies and consortia are planning new routes, for example, between Paris and Berlin, or Amsterdam and Barcelona. The renewed interest in night trains also raises an interesting question about the future of travel. Are we moving toward a slower, more sustainable style of mobility? Or will low-cost flights continue to dominate? The answer is probably somewhere in the middle. Night trains are not a perfect solution for every trip. They make the most sense at certain distances, roughly between 600 and 1,500 kilometers, where the journey can fit naturally into a night and where enough passengers are likely to use the route all year round. But even if they remain a niche product, night trains play an important symbolic role. They show that there is another way to move across a continent, one that respects the environment more, offers a unique experience, and makes the journey itself part of the adventure. For language learners like you, they also offer a very human classroom. On a night train, you have time and opportunities to talk. You can share a compartment with people from different countries, have breakfast with a stranger in the dining car, or ask the conductor for advice about your destination. The conversations can be short and simple, or deep and personal. Either way, they are real. Before we finish, let's quickly summarize some key points from this episode. Night trains are long-distance trains that travel mainly at night and offer sleeping options such as couchettes and private sleepers. They almost disappeared in the early 2000s because of competition from low-cost airlines, reduced government support, and the spread of high-speed daytime trains. Now they are making a comeback, driven by climate concerns, a desire for more meaningful and less stressful travel, and a new appreciation for slow journeys. The onboard experience combines practical benefits, such as saving daytime hours and hotel costs, with emotional ones like the gentle movement, the sense of being in a small moving community, and the magic of waking up in a different city. However, night trains face challenges: high operating costs, complex international coordination, security and comfort issues, and competition from both planes and high-speed trains. Still, they represent a powerful symbol of a different way to travel, one that connects not only places, but also people. If you ever have the chance to take a night train in Europe, you might discover that the most memorable part of your trip is not the destination, but the quiet hours in the dark, listening to the train carry you through the night. Thank you for listening to Kuma English Listening Hub. If you found this topic interesting, try listening again and focus on new vocabulary or shadow parts of the audio to improve your pronunciation and rhythm. Until next time, enjoy your journeys, whether they happen by day, by night, or in your imagination.